We are live.
Yay! Of
Where's
course.
my yay? Oh, even if I don't, even if there's no video accompanying it, I want my yay.
Sorry again for the. Oh,
Video
whoa, whoa,
accompanying it,
whoa,
I want
whoa,
my yay.
whoa. Hold on. I didn't turn the volume down on my tablet. Um,
We noticed.
yeah, we are still no internet at my house, so you don't get to see my back door. I'm sitting on a bar stool with the phone in the wires of a beach umbrella to get the best signal, but I still can't do video. But we do have internet coming tomorrow, supposedly, so Wednesday should be back to normal. I'm just glad to actually have three live streams scheduled for 1 week. It's been so long. I know Lizzie has definitely missed it. We appreciate the fact that she does miss it. And I am glad that we are, even though we had to come in a little early today, that we are back on schedule. So I have missed you, Richard, for sure, and all the others.
We're off schedule because I wanted to wrap this up in time to make a meeting. But anyway,
That's okay.
thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lady Thistle. And shall we get to it?
Not a problem. I am old new dude. He is,
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
and this is the Storm of Swords, Cat One. And as always, the brains of the operation is going to start it off. I'll jump in with my stupid stuff. So take it away, Richard.
I know what you did. You made him take her. The price to pay for the swords and spears of House Tully. Wait a minute, what happened here? My notes got messed up. Uh-oh. Shoot. All right, let me jump over to the Kindle and start reading at the beginning because somehow
I didn't do it.
I know. Did I send you when I sent the email? Was it okay? Maybe I screwed it up when I was.
Yeah, I got what you just said, and then I
All
know
right.
what you did. She was no longer an innocent bride.
No, that's
With a
it.
hit.
That's messed up, right? It's supposed to be saying. So Desmond Grell had served House Tully all his life. He'd been a squire when Catelyn was born, a knight when she learned to walk and ride and swim, master at arms by the day that she was wed. He had seen Lord Hoster's little cat become a young woman, a great lord's lady, mother to a king. And now he has seen me become a traitor as well. Dude has never looked better.
Thank you.
I don't think that's a compliment.
I'll take it that way, though.
All right, fair enough. Her brother Edmure had named Sir Desmond Castellan of Riverrun when he rode off to battle, so it fell to him to deal with her crime. To ease his discomfort, he brought her father's steward with him, dour Eutherides Wayne, I guess. I don't know. Eutherides,
Okay.
however you say that.
Close
The two
enough.
men stood. The two men stood and looked at her. Sir Desmond, stout, red-faced, embarrassed. Eutherides, grave, gaunt, melancholy. Each waited for the other to speak. They've given their lives to my father's service, and I've repaid them with disgrace, Gatlin thought wearily. Your son, Sir Desmond said at last. Maester Vyman told us. The poor lad's terrible, terrible, but we share your grief, my lady, said Eutherides Wayne. All Riverrun mourns with you. But the news must have driven you mad, Sir Desmond broke in. A madness of grief, a mother's madness. Men will understand. You did not know. Yeah, we had defined female hysteria up until recently, right? So
Yeah.
I did, Catelyn said firmly.
Well, I mean, this is before we go any further, this is a common theme in the story that George is trying to break through. That they blame
Right.
it on a woman's weakness is why she
Right.
did it, but
Absolutely.
she was never stronger in her resolve than when she did it. It was her strength that set Jamie on task. It wasn't weakness.
And
So this,
faith in
I mean,
Tyrion.
yeah. Well, you got
Misplaced, perhaps.
still. I mean, but yeah, they're
Yep.
just automatically assuming that it's a woman's weakness, and it is nothing. There's no. I mean, even Sansa, as she goes along, her weakness is youth. It's not that she's a female, and
I,
we see
I,
that slowly get ripped away as the story goes on. There's no weak females actually in this story. they're all extremely strong.
Yeah, and
Strong. Go ahead.
we're supposed to realize that the that the Starks are actually hypocrites too, right? I mean, everybody is,
Yeah.
everybody in the world is, but one of the things that I think is so hilarious is that her faith in Tyrion, and then and then Rob is like, how could he how could he marry her after promising in front of everyone? Yes. How could someone promise and then marry someone? Oh, how could somebody do such a thing? Anyway,
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, same as with Ned, it was out of Tyrion's hands, just as it was out of Ned's hands.
right? You're forced to do what the more powerful people tell you to do when it comes to marriage, right?
Right. And both, I mean, regardless of what Tyrion thought internally of Sansa, both verbally argued the point. It was not something that they were looking forward to doing or even wanting to do.
Right. I did, Catelyn said firmly. I understood what I was doing and knew it was treasonous. If you fail to punish me, men will believe that we connived together to free Jaime Lannister. It was mine own act and mine alone, and I alone must answer for it. Put me in the Kingslayer's empty irons, and I will wear them proudly, if that is how it must be. Fetters? The very word seemed to shock poor Sir Desmond. To the king's mother, my lord's own daughter? Impossible. Mayhaps, said the steward Eutharides Wayne, my lady would consent to be confined to her chambers until Sir Edmure returns. Time alone to pray for her murdered sons? Confined, aye, Sir Desmond said. Confined to a tower cell, that would serve. If I am to be confined, let it be in my father's chambers, so I might comfort him in his last days. Sir Desmond considered a moment. Very well. You shall lack no comfort nor courtesy, but freedom of the castle is denied you. Visit the steps as you need, but elsewise, remain in Lord Hoster's chambers until Lord Edmure returns. As you wish. Her brother was no lord while their father lived, but Catelyn did not correct him. Set a guard on me if you must, but I give you my pledge that I shall attempt no escape. Sir Desmond nodded, plainly glad to be done with his distasteful task, but sad-eyed Eutharides Wayne lingered a moment after the castellan took his leave. It was a grave thing you did, my lady, but for naught. Sir Desmond has sent Sir Robin Ryger after them to bring back the Kingslayer, or failing that, his head. Catelyn had expected no less. May the warrior give strength to your sword arm, Brienne, she prayed. She'd done all she could. Nothing remained but to hope.
And what a sword arm it is.
Absolutely. Her things were moved into her father's bedchamber, dominated by the great canopied bed she had been born in, its pillars carved in the shapes of leaping trout. Her father himself had been moved half a turn down the stair, his sickbed placed to face the triangular balcony that opened off his solar, from whence he could see the rivers that he had always loved so well. So I find that kind of interesting. Half a turn down the stair. It's just like a split level bedroom. Anyway,
I don't know.
Lord Hoster was sleeping when Catelyn entered. She went out to the balcony and stood with one hand on the rough stone balustrade. Beyond the point of the castle, the swift tumblestone joined the placid Red Fork, and she could see a long way down river. If a striped sail comes from the east, it will be Sir Robin returning. For the moment, the surface of the waters was empty. She thanked the gods for that and went back inside to sit with her father. If I took off the Kingslayer's hand, I'd mount it like a billy bass on my wall. Opportunity wasted. Catelyn could not say if Lord Hoster knew that she was there, or if her presence brought him any comfort, but it gave her solace to be with him. What would you say if you knew my crime, father? She wondered. Would you have done as I did, if it were Liza and me in the hands of our enemies? Would you condemn me too and call it mother's madness? There was a smell of death about that room, a heavy smell, sweet and foul, clinging. It reminded her of the sons that she had lost. Her sweet Brienne and her little Rickon, slain at the hand of Theon Greyjoy, who had been Ned's ward. She still grieved for Ned. She would always grieve for Ned. To have her babies taken as well? It's a monstrous, cruel thing to lose a child, she whispered softly, more to herself than to her father. Lord Hoster's eyes opened. So I did. I think I had this. I need to switch back over my notes if I actually. Oh, okay. Yeah, it did. It did. I don't know what I must have pasted something in there, but I did have it pretty
Yeah,
well
you
in here.
said cue Holster to think of one of the monstrous, cruel things he did, causing his own child to lose a child.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. So yeah, it's a monstrous cool thing to lose a child, and then suddenly Lord Hoster's eyes open. So yeah, exactly. Cue Hoster to think of one of the monstrous cool things he did.
Yeah.
Um, Lord Hoster's eyes opened. Tansy, he husked in a voice thick with pain. He does not know me. Callan had grown accustomed to him taking her for her mother or her sister Liza, but Tansy was a name strange to her. It's Catalan, she said. It's Cat, father. Forgive me. The blood. Oh, please. Tansy. So the first time we hear of Tansy Tea, it's Lady Smallwood scolding Thomas Evans in Aria 4. The Riverlands are full of maids you've pleased, all drinking Tansy tea.
Now,
And then later, go ahead.
is he calling out her name is Tansy, or is he just
Apparently,
saying?
I don't have with darkness. I don't have a camera either.
I mean, I-
Do
I think
do
he's
you want me
calling
to
out the
fix my?
Tansy tea.
Should I fix my video?
What's that?
Yeah, of course he is. Of course he is. But my point of going through these examples is to show us that actually the commoners do call it tansy tea. Um, so Lysa does not call it tansy tea. Lysa calls it moon tea. But
Hmm.
um, but anyways, my point is tansy tea actually is what it's called. And so I bec- um, like two boobs having a conversation. Anyway, I see what you mean. It does look like. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh. I'll be right back. Where's that here? Usually I can just pull down on the thing, but it's not working right.
Yeah, it's a Monday. We're out of practice. If y'all hear a meow every now and then, Sammy
All
the
right, I'm back.
Sewer is about 10 feet away from me in his chicken coop, just
I did.
staring
It
at
did
me.
kind of look like it did look kind of look like two boobs, but anyway. All right. Um. So anyway,
Liberty and liberty.
and then later in Stanza 7, we have Lysa finally telling us, like, and this is what caused me. I've always had this problem where I keep associating with Moon Tea. It's because this quote is the famous quote. I gave you. This is Sansa 7. I gave you my maiden's gift. I would have given you a son too, but they murdered him with moon tea, with tansy and mint and wormwood, a spoon of honey and a drop of pennyroyal. It wasn't me. I never knew. I only drank what father gave me. So, I've always thought of this. That's why I've always thought of it as moon tea rather than tansy, but because it's such a key quote and we kind of hear people repeat it over and over again. But it's
Yeah,
clear from what Lady Smallwood says that it's really often just called tansy. So
right.
it actually does make more sense than I always thought maybe this doesn't make sense, and maybe there really is a tansy or something. Maybe there's some other interpretation of this, but no, I think it really is supposed to be tansy as the tea.
Well,
Could there have could there have been another woman in father's life? Some village maiden he had wronged when he was young, perhaps? Could he have found comfort in some serving wench's arms after mother died? It was a queer thought, unsettling. Suddenly she felt as though she had not known her father at all. Who is Tansy, my lord? Do you want me to send for her father? Where would I find the woman? Does she still live? Lord Hoster groaned. Dead. His hand groped for hers. You'll have others, sweet babes, and true-born. Others? Callan thought. Has he forgotten that Ned is gone? Is he still talking to Tansy? Or is it me now? Or Eliza? Or Mother? So obviously she did hit on the correct answer with her like third guess there, but anyway.
yeah.
When when he coughed, the sputum came up bloody. He clutched her fingers. Be a good wife, and the gods will bless you. Sons, true-born sons. Ah! A sudden spasm of pain made Lord Hoster's hand tighten. His nails dug into her hand. Uh-oh, we lost dude. And he gave a muffled scream. Anyway, all sorts of wonderful technical problems here. Maester Vyman came quickly to mix another dose of milk of the poppy and help his lord swallow it down. Soon enough, Lord Hoster Tully had fallen back into a heavy sleep. I always love how shocked people are that people might have needs after their spouse dies. Pearls clutched. Hey, are you back? Sounds like you might be. Dude?
Now I'm back.
All right.
I'll be glad when tomorrow gets here.
He was asking after a woman, said Cat. Tansy. Tansy? The maester looked at her blankly. You, you know no one by that name? A serving girl? A woman from some nearby village? Perhaps someone from years past? Catelyn had been gone from Riverrun for a very long time. No, my lady. I can make inquiries if you like. Authorities Wayne would surely know if any such person ever served at Riverrun. Tansy, did you say? The small folk often name their daughters after flowers and herbs. The maester looked thoughtful. There was a widow, I recall. She used to come to the castle looking for old shoes and needs of new soles. Her name was Tansy now that I think on it. Or was it Pansy? Some such. But she has not come for many years. Her name was Violet, said Catelyn, who remembered the old woman very well. Was it? The maester looked apologetic. My pardons, Lady Catelyn, but I may not stay. Sir Desmond has decreed that we are to speak to you only so far as our duties require. Then you must do as he commands. Catelyn could not blame Sir Desmond. She had given him small reason to trust her, and no doubt he feared that she might use the loyalty that many of the folk of Riverrun would still feel toward their lord's daughter to work some further mischief. I am free of the war, at least, she told herself, if only for a little while. After the maester had gone, she donned a woolen cloak and stepped out onto the balcony once more. Sunlight shimmered on the rivers, gilding the surface of the waters as they rolled past the castle. Catelyn shaded her eyes against the glare, searching for a distant sail, dreading the sight of one. There was nothing, and nothing meant that her hopes were still alive. All that day she watched, and well into the night, until her legs ached from standing. A raven came to the castle in late afternoon, flapping down on great black wings to the rookery. Dark wings, dark words, she thought, remembering the last bird that had come and the horror it had brought. Maester Byman returned at evenfall to minister to Lord Tully and bring Catelyn a modest supper of bread, cheese, and boiled beef with horseradish. I spoke to Eutherides Wayne, my lady. He is quite certain that no woman by the name of Tansy has ever been at Riverrun during his service. There was a raven today, I saw. Has Jamie been taken again? Or slain, gods forbid? No, my lady, we've had no word of the Kingslayer. Is it another battle, then? Is Edmure in difficulty, or Robb? Please, be kind, put my fears at rest. My lady, I should not. Byman glanced about as if to make certain no one else was in the room. Lord Tywin has left the Riverlands. All's quiet on the fords. Whence came the raven, then? From the west, he answered, busying himself with Lord Hoster's bedclothes and avoiding her eyes. Was it news of Robb? He hesitated. Yes, my lady. Something is wrong. She knew it from his manner. He was hiding something from her. Tell me, is it Robb? Is he hurt? Not dead. Gods be good. Please do not tell me that he's dead. His grace took a wound storming the crag, Maester Byman said, still evasive, but writes that there's no cause for concern, and that he hopes to return soon. A wound? What sort of wound? How serious? No cause for concern, he writes. All wounds concern me. Is he being cared for? I am certain of it. The maester at the crag will tend to him, I have no doubt. Where was he wounded? My lady, I am commanded not to speak with you. I am sorry. Gathering up his potions, Byman made a hurried exit, and once again Catelyn was left alone with her father. The milk of the poppy had done its work, and Lord Hoster was sunk in heavy sleep. A thin line of spittle ran down from one corner of his open mouth to dampen his pillow. Catelyn took a square of linen and wiped it away gently. When she touched him, Lord Hoster moaned. Forgive me, he said, so softly she could scarcely hear the words. Tansy, blood, the blood. Gods be kind.
Quick thing.
Yep.
The Raven did inform them that the Robb had taken a wife, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. That's my interpretation.
By his reaction and
He's
just
being
his
evasive
manner.
for that reason.
Yeah, right. Because before he wasn't. Now he is. So
right. And we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see the phrase "leave" here and everything too, right?
Yeah. So the contents of the Raven are going to be known through the castle, but just not to her.
Right. And Pod says if they really wanted to punish her, they should have made her eat lamprey. Yeah, the fact that she gets to decide that she'll be confined with her father. It's an interesting penalty, as it were. She's basically allowed to choose what she does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Sir Desmond definitely did not like the situation, and any resolve to it as quickly as possible, and with as little insult to Lord
Well,
Holster's
what?
daughter.
Well, yeah. I mean, he even says, "If you'd consent to be confined," and she's like, "I would, as long as it's with my father, because that's what I'm going to do
Yeah.
anyway." Her prison food is roast beef. His words disturbed her more than she could say, though she could make no sense of them. Blood, she thought. Must it all come back to blood? Father, who was this woman? And what did you do to her that needs so much forgiveness? Some of what he did to Ned, some of what he did to you, and some unique to Lysa. See Triplet Agrarians episode 1 and 2.
Yeah, Lord Holster's not a,
No, just
a
ask
nice.
House Goodbrook, right?
Yeah,
And
he's not a good guy.
later on in this book, people are going to be looking at Arya funny when they find out about House Goodbrook and how all the war crimes that Hoster does.
Well, I
Anyway,
mean, he's the type of person that belongs in King's Landing, just the way he connives and tries to
oh,
improve.
he and Tywin are two of a kind, right? I mean,
Yeah,
he's perfectly happy to just murder the small folk as punishment for anyway.
yeah. Well, we as the reader are seeing him through Cat's eyes, so we
Right,
generally get a good feeling about the man. But then once you actually
right.
pay attention, he's not a nice guy.
No, he's not. Yeah, and I think we'll bring that up again here in a little bit. That night, Catelyn slept fitfully, haunted by formless dreams of her children, the lost and the dead. Well before the break of day, she woke with her father's words echoing in her ears. Sweet babes and true born. Why would he say that? Unless, could he have fathered a bastard on this woman, Tansy? She could not believe it. Now, I, George always does this thing where he's giving you some huge clues and then he pauses and then he continues and it changes the meaning completely, right?
Yeah,
And um, yeah, why would he tell me that I would have
yeah.
anyway? Could he have fathered a bastard on this woman, Tansy? She could not believe it. Her brother Edmure, yes. It would not have surprised her to learn that Edmure had a dozen natural children, but not her father, not Lord Hoster Tully, never. And that kind of goes back to Lizzie's previous comment about how she always loved how shocked people are that people might have needs after their spouse dies. Pearls
Yeah.
clutched. We will learn in Arya 8 that he burned the Riverlands villages of House Goodbrook, and Cat is completely unsurprised by Ned fathering a bastard. But somehow this is unthinkable. Yeah, whatever. In Eddard 4,
Hmm.
when Ned thinks it would not be the first time that Ned had been forced to make common cause with a man he despised, I believe he was likely thinking of Hoster and possibly Dorcas, because we know Ned was not a fan of Dorcas.
No.
For more on Ned, for more on Ned being forced by Hoster, see Triplet Targaryens episodes 1 and 2. Could Tansy be some pet name he called Lysa the way he called me Cat? Lord Hoster had mistaken her for a sister before. You'll have others, he said, sweet babes and trueborn. Lysa had miscarried 5 times, twice in the Eyrie, thrice at King's Landing, but never at River Run, where Lord Hoster would have been at hand to comfort her. Never, unless she was with child that first time.
Hey, also, it's funny that I don't know if you mentioned it, but my memory. But he's talking to Cat about you. I mean, you're. I mean, basically, you're still young enough that you could still have trueborn. And if Cat remarried
Right,
and had
right.
children,
That's
they.
that's my point. Is he always gives us these things where they're technically um, they're technically true,
Hmm.
with a different interpretation that you can go back and look at up until like the pause, and then they kind of elaborate and become more locked into
Right.
what's going on in that moment,
He
right?
does that a lot with Danny and her father Rhaegar on the
Yep,
wording
yep,
of the sentences and stuff
absolutely,
like that. Yeah.
absolutely. And of course, one of the most famous examples is probably the true killer. I confess, right?
Yeah,
that, that,
exactly.
that Baelish pauses and then continues on, right? And then you've got Dorcas when he's describing Sir Hugh. He talks about how there was this boy and everything he owed to John Aaron, and he worked his way up. And then there's a pause, and then then Dorcas goes on to say he must have looked great with those moons, that new armor, and all this stuff, right? And then Ned says, "Oh, the Squire Hugh," and some people seem to misremember this and think that Dorcas is saying that it was Littlefinger. No, Dorcas is saying that it's Hugh, but the author pauses, tells us the truth, then continues to make it clear that the character is talking about Sir Hugh. But he does that same thing with Littlefinger, right? The true killer, I confess, right? And of course we think that he does it with Howland Reed, saying that he's looking for Sansa for love, right? And then he says for love of gold, and no, he's Howland Reed and he's looking for her for love, and that way it fits the pattern of Jeff has decided that we've counted up to 7 now. Anyway.
But
is he allowed to do that, Lizzie? Is Jeff allowed to do that, Lizzie? Anyway.
George is sneaky.
Oh yeah. And
well, I mean, there is a debate. I mean, the way we read those sentences, there is a debate that we're reading too much into it, and but I mean, it's all about the individual reader's interpretations of the word.
Absolutely.
And
we believe that there are multiple correct interpretations, and that the author confirming one is correct does not necessarily invalidate the alternative interpretation.
Exactly.
She and her sister had been married on the same day and left in their father's care when their new husbands had ridden off to rejoin Robert's rebellion. No, Jeffrey, spray his water bottle. Afterward, when their moonblood did not come at the accustomed time, Lysaid gushed happily of the son she was certain they carried. Your son will be heir to Winterfell and mine to the Eyrie. Oh, they'll be the best of friends, like your Ned and Lord Robert. They'll be more brothers than cousins, truly. I just know it. She was so happy. So, anyway, this is interesting. But Lysa's blood had come not long after, and all the joy had gone out of her. Catelyn had always thought that Lysa had simply been a little late, but if she had been with child contrasted with future trueborn children. Apparently, Lysa wasn't showing, and we know Littlefinger was sleeping with her at the same time Cat was meeting her betrothed. They got pregnant together. See Triplet Targaryens episode 1 and Tony Teflon of Teflon TV's video for proof Robb is not Ned Stark's son. And in the original, unfortunately now marked private, in the original Bar Tube video, they talk about how giving your maidenhead and giving your maidenhood are different. Giving your maidenhood could mean getting married, while giving your maidenhead would mean, actual virginity.
The actual act, yeah.
Yep. Lizzie says,
the onlookers at the wedding their interpretation it's a general interpretation of everybody else. Your maidenhood,
right?
And then the actual act in the wedding bedding ceremony would be maidenhead. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, somebody recently on Reddit was complaining to me. They said I really like your videos, but that's just impossible because she says she gave her maidenhood to Ned. I'm like, I haven't actually corrected them on that part. I just took the compliment, and they seemed very, very interested in me having more videos, so I pointed them at the playlist called Live Streams with Old New Dude.
Yeah, they're basically your videos. I just jump in every now and then. But we've said it before, or I've said it before, if you weren't here, it'd be about a 5-minute video, unless I went on a rant on something completely different. And
if people don't believe you, that the first half a dozen in the series are which I didn't include in my playlist, but they exist. Are you going from the prologue and the first the first 5 chapters of Game of Thrones?
Yeah. Well, it never dawned on me to do it the way you're doing it, and at first I'm like, man, it's kind of long-winded. And then after probably about 6 live streams with you, I love the way you do it. I love
we're gonna have to shorten some of these chapters. Right?
Yeah,
some of those have to be shortened.
Well, I mean, I trust your judgment on what you pull out, but I mean, actually having the reading what's leading up to what you're about to say, and then what comes on after what you just said. I mean, it gives it a lot of context. It gives
Well, I
everybody.
like what we were doing at the beginning where we were just highlighting quotes, but I kind of like reading it too. So either
Yeah.
way. She remembered the first time she gave her sister Rob to hold. Small, red-faced, and squarely, but strong even then, full of life. No sooner had Catelyn placed the babe in her sister's arms than Lysa's face dissolved into tears. Hurriedly, she had thrust the baby back at Catelyn and fled. If she'd lost a child before, that might explain father's words, and much else besides. Lysa's match with Lord Arryn had been hastily arranged, and John was an old man even then, older than their father, an old man without an heir. His first two wives had left him childless. His brother's son had been murdered with Brandon Stark at King's Landing. His gallant cousin had died in the Battle of the Bells. He needed a young wife if House Arryn was to continue, a young wife known to be fertile. My normal live stream alarms are causing me problems now. Oh, yeah, sorry about doing it a half hour earlier. Anyway, of course, the fact that he had two younger wives before and that they never gave him any kids might
Yeah, it's
indicate
him.
that perhaps it was him. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and Harry the Heir has a distinct Aaron look, and
Yeah.
um, Sweet Robin does not.
No. I would say it would be what, almost Baelish looking?
I think that's probably more accurate. Yes.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, of course.
Trueborn. Yeah, sure.
And if see, here's, I mean, this is just Littlefinger. Littlefinger knows that's his son, and he's still slowly poisoning.
Yep. Yep. Catelyn rose, threw on a robe, and descended the steps to the darkened solar that stood stand over her father. A sense of helpless dread filled her. Father, she said, Father, I know what you did. She was no longer an innocent bride with a head full of dreams. She was a widow, a traitor, a grieving mother, and wise in the ways of the world. You made him take her, she whispered. Lysa was the price John Arryn had to pay for the swords and spears of House Tully. You don't know the half of it, Cat. Hoster made Ned take you. Replacing the Shara Dane was the price he had to pay for the swords and spears of House Tully. See Triplet Targaryens episode 2.
Man, you're plugging away today. You're making up for lost time.
Small wonder her sister's marriage had been so loveless. The Arryns were proud and prickly of their honor. Lord John might wed Lysa to bind the Tullys to the cause of the rebellion and in hopes of a son, but it would have been hard for him to love a woman who came to his bed soiled and unwilling. It would have been kind, no doubt, dutiful, yes, but Lysa needed warmth. The truth is out there, says Lizzie. The
Yeah,
next
you got to
day,
read those. The phone is 4 feet away. I can't read anything that's on the screen.
as she, fortunately, I've got my bionic eye.
There you go.
The next day, as she actually might be easier to read with my left eye, to be honest. The next day, as she broke her fast, Catelyn asked for quill and paper and began a letter to her sister in the Vale of Arryn. She told Lysa of Bran and Rickon, struggling with the words, but mostly she wrote of their father. His thoughts are all of the wrong he did you, now that his time grows short. Maester Byman says he dare not make the milk of the poppy any stronger. It's time for father to lay down his sword and shield. It's time for him to rest. Yet he fights on grimly, will not yield. It is for your sake, I think. He needs your forgiveness. The war has made the road from the Eyrie to Riverrun dangerous to travel, I know, but surely a strong force of knights could see you safely through the mountains of the moon? 100 men or 1,000? And if you cannot come, will you not write him at least a few words of love so he might die in peace? Write what you will, and I shall read it to him and ease his way.
I mean, she doesn't write because she hates her father, doesn't she? For the baby
Of
he took.
course.
Okay.
Of course. Yeah. Even if this Raven gets there in time, yeah, she's not going to write back.
Yeah.
And who could blame her?
No, I don't blame her either.
Although I do like to point out that the despite what you've heard about the Bible being silent on the topic of abortion, it's not exactly true. The second book of the Bible specifically tells people that if a woman's child is if it's suspected that the kid is not trueborn, then you are supposed to slip her an abortifacient. It's called the test of bitter waters. It's supposed to be basically just enough that there's like a 50-50 chance.
Hmm.
Nasty stuff. Anyway, so it's sort of it's sort of pro-abortion and anti-choice. Anyway,
No.
anti-bastard, I suppose. Lady Thistle, maybe Littlefinger has people intercepting her letters. He wants to keep her isolated. Oh, that's possible. So she may not have had a choice. So I don't think she would have wanted
Yeah.
to give him peace anyway, though.
I do like the little finger.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. It's a reasonable
Yeah.
interpretation. Even as she set the quill aside and asked for sealing wax, Catelyn sensed that the letter was like to be too little and too late. So, she herself has realized what's going on here and is
Yeah.
not expecting a reply. Maester Vyman did not believe Lord Hoster would linger long enough for Raven to reach the Eyrie and return, though he has said much the same before. Tully men did not surrender easily, no matter the odds. After she entrusted the parchment to the Maester's care, Catelyn went to the Sept and lit a candle to the Father above for her own father's sake. A second to the crone, who had let the first raven into the world when she peered through the door of death, and a third to the mother, for Lysa and all the children they had both lost. So the story of the crone peering through the door of death reminds me of Pandora's box. Anyway.
Okay. Also, before we get, I just popped in my head. I know it's been talked to about when it comes to Rob and John, who was born first. If he is Brandon's son, there's a chance that Ned and Ashara Ashara was already pregnant at that time, possibly.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if it is Rob is Ned's son.
No. Brandon would have impregnated Cat first, because it's the news of the death of Bran and Rick that drives Rob into the arms of his wife, and so it'd be the news of Bran and Rick that would drive Ned into the arms of his wife, right? So, I mean, it's supposed to be a parallel there of them each receiving word of the death of Bran and Rick, and then seeking comfort, and then following through on that.
I look at it as,
I mean, that's the concept.
When it comes to Rob and then Ned's marriage to Cat, there are outside forces that are at work, basically Rob's stepmother giving him love potions and whatnot. And then you got Holster Tully with Ned. So you got other people that are interfering with their vows.
Yeah, good mother or mother-in-law or mother-by-law are the three terms.
I couldn't remember the exact term here.
Rather than stepmother, but yes.
Yeah.
You're familiar with Pandora's box, I assume that she,
Yeah.
Anyway, later that day, as she sat at Lord Hoster's bedside with a book, reading the same passage over and over, she heard the sound of loud voices and a trumpet's blare. Reading the same book over and over, who would do such a thing? Anyway. Sir
what
Robin,
madness is this?
Sir Robin, she thought at once, flinching. She went to the balcony, but there was nothing to be seen out on the rivers. But she could hear the voices more clearly from outside. The sound of many horses, the clink of armor, and here and there a cheer. Catelyn made her way up the winding stairs to the roof of the keep. Sir Desmond did not forbid me the roof, she told herself as she climbed. When characters tell themselves things, the implication is they are lying to themselves or having to convince themselves of something. Yeah. John uses 3 different types of arrows, then tells himself he did not shoot Ygritte because the arrow doesn't match the first set of arrows, even as she is still alive after he switched arrows. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anytime I see that they told themselves, it always reminds me of that. The sounds were coming from the far side of the castle by the main gate. A knot of men stood before the portcullis as it rose in jerks and starts, and in the fields beyond, outside the castle, were several hundred riders. When the wind blew, it lifted their banners, and she trembled in relief at the sight of the leaping trout of Riverrun. Edmure. It was 2 hours before he saw fit to come to her. By then the castle rang to the sound of noisy reunions as men embraced the women and children they had left behind. 3 ravens had risen from the rookery, black wings beating at the air as they took flight. Catelyn watched them from her father's balcony. She'd washed her hair, changed her clothing, and prepared herself for her brother's reproaches. But even so, the waiting was hard. Now these are the three ravens that he's sending to Harrenhal.
Yeah.
When at last she heard sounds outside her door, she sat and folded her hands in her lap. Dried red mud spattered Edmir's boots, greaves, and surcoat. To look at him, you would never know he had won his battle. He was thin and drawn, with pale cheeks, unkempt beard, and two bright eyes. Edmure, Catelyn said, worried. You look unwell. Has something happened? Have the Lannisters crossed the river? I threw them back. Lord Tywin, Gregor Clegane, Adam Marbrand. I turned them away. Stannis, though, he grimaced. Stannis? What of Stannis? He lost the battle at King's Landing, Edmure said unhappily. His fleet was burned, his army routed. The Lannister victory was ill tidings, but Catelyn could not share her brother's obvious dismay. She still had nightmares about the shadow she had seen slide across Renly's tent and the way the blood had come flowing out through the steel of his gorget. Stannis was no more a friend than Lord Tywin. You do not understand. Highgarden is declared for Joffrey. Dorne as well. All the south. His mouth tightened. And you see fit to loose the Kingslayer? You had no right. I had a mother's right. Voice was calm, though the news about Highgarden was a savage blow to Robb's hopes. She could not think about that now, though. No right, Edmure repeated. He was Robb's captive, your king's captive, and Robb charged me to keep him safe. Brienne will keep him safe. She swore it on her sword. That woman? She will deliver Jaime to King's Landing and bring Arya and Sansa back to us safely. Cersei will never give them up. Not Cersei, Tyrion. He swore it in open court, and the Kingslayer swore it as well. Jaime's word is worthless. As for the imp, he said he took an axe to the head during the battle. He'll be dead before your Brienne reaches King's Landing, if she ever does. Dead? Could the gods truly be so merciless? She had made Jaime swear 100 oaths, but it was his brother's promise she had pinned her hopes on. Edmure was blind to her distress. Jaime was my charge, and I mean to have him back. I've sent ravens. Ravens? To whom? How many? 3, he said. So the message will be certain to reach Lord Bolton. By river or road, the way from River Run to King's Landing must needs take them close to by Harrenhal. Harrenhal. The very words seemed to darken the room. Horror thickened her voice as she said, Edmure, do you know what you've done? Have no fear, I left your part out. I wrote that Jaime had escaped and offered 1,000 dragons for his recapture. Worse and worse, Catelyn thought in despair. My brother is a fool. Unbidden, unwanted tears filled her eyes. If this was an escape, she said softly, and not an exchange of hostages, why should the Lannisters give my daughters to Brienne? It will never come to that. The Kingslayer will be returned to us. I have made certain of it. All you've made certain is that I shall never see my daughters again. Brienne might have gotten him to King's Landing safely, so long as no one was hunting for them. But now, Catelyn could not go on. Leave me, Edmure. She had no right to command him here in the castle that would soon be his, and her tone would brook no argument. Leave me to father and my grief. I have no more to say to you. Go, go. All she wanted was to lie down, to close her eyes and sleep, and pray no dreams would come. Speaking of Harrenhal and Jaime, up next, Storm 3, Arya 1, Nymeria rips off an arm.
Gotta love Nymeria.
Yeah, it's just kind of reminds me a little bit of Jaime, and certainly she's just left Harrenhal. So,
yep, I posted on Discord that all is right in the world. I opened a box and there is one of my Jaime figures. I just had to find the rest. All praise Jaime, Golden Hand.
Golden Hand the Just.
Yeah. Also said in my dreams, I know it was a dream because Jaime has both hands, and then put a little wink face on there.
Anyway.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of Cat's chapters, but I mean, this one was actually pretty good. It had some stuff in there you definitely needed to know, some stuff that makes you wonder.
Key chapter to understand what's going on.
Definitely. Now, of course, the first time you read through it, some of that stuff just kind of went over your head. It definitely went over mine.
Sure.
Even though when I got we bought all 3 books at one time, me and Chris, and we sped through the first 2 books because they were, as far as I was told, they were pretty much, the show got all the main points type things, and where it really started to deviate was the 3rd book. So I read the 3rd book a lot slower than I did the first 2 books, but not reading the first 2 books as intently as I should have. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this book that I didn't catch the first time, and not even probably the second time through. It wasn't till third time and other people's YouTube channel and stuff like that that certain things were popping out. And even to this day, like Lady Thistle, she'll mention something, and it's her mic drop moments that she does all the time. And I'm like, holy cow, I'd never even thought of that. Uh, I mean, just like Littlefinger blocking the Ravens in the news to keep Lysa blind to what's going on. Just
Are we going
little
to get a
things.
Lady Thistle podcast? Did you see that Lady Thistle and Charles are talking about podcasting?
Oh yeah, I knew about that. I've been waiting on it.
Man, that's cool.
It's supposed to be when she gets done. I know she'll hopefully type in here and let us know when she gets done digitizing her notes, or if she's actually going to wait that long and just start without out digitizing her notes. I think she just needs to go ahead and start because she's got most of the information in her head. She's one of the smartest Song of Ice and Fire
Absolutely.
people I know, which I don't know that many,
Absolutely.
but she's still one of the even out of all the YouTube videos that are out there and everything, I respect her opinion and theories on things pretty much more than anybody
Everybody
else's.
out there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt.
Absolutely. We're your biggest fans.
Yay! Even though on Discord we were talking about,
Stop.
I had found a couple of my notebooks, and I took a picture of it. I'm like, one day I'll catch Lady Thistle, but we all know that's not true. And Jeff's like, we'll cut off her hands, and then basically at the end of it, we were making her a handless, faceless man. And I'm like, I wouldn't sleep well knowing that Lady Thistle was a faceless man because I mean, she would come back with a vengeance on that.
Yeah, we do not want her to
Lady
lose her
Thistle.
sword hand. I don't want her to lose
No.
her sword hand. I want her to keep working.
Yeah, well, I said if you take her hand, then it should be like the half hand and come back and be better with her left hand than she ever was with her right. So we need to go ahead and take both away. She couldn't talk to text.
You've been roboting a little bit. Your bandwidth's definitely not there. I can make it out.
Oh, sorry, man. I'll be so glad when tomorrow gets here and I get internet.
Cool.
They bathed lady my Rottweiler mix yesterday, Chris and Drew, and her backyard is pine straw and sand, and she is sitting there rolling around in the dirt, covering every inch of her body with sand. So,
Yeah, come here. Yeah, come here.
oh,
yeah.
Now she stopped. Oh, I wanted to give Charles a big shout out. I don't know if I've said it on here or not. Chris has named our 3 acres Crow's Crossing, and I plan on doing a 6-foot wide crow and hang it from a pine tree that's in the center of our circle driveway. And I wanted to get crows to sit on top of it and take a picture of it. That'd be awesome. And then Charles has said that I need to do a rod all the way across the top and then have that spike that you put like a whole corn cob thing on it to get the crows to come in and then hang the sign from that pole to where they had something actual uniform to stand on and a reason to stand there. So next weekend is when I'm going to make the crow. So shout out to Charles for the brilliant idea of using a rod or a 2x4 or something. Just
Is this your audio?
I got some crows that live about a half a mile up the road. I'm sitting on the
4
front
months
porch.
and 1 week. Jeff says baby.
What's that?
Jeff said baby. I said 4 months and 1 week.
Oh, I can't see.
Well, you'll see later.
Okay.
Just fast forward to the end of the video.
Yeah, I'll watch
fast forward to the end of the video.
There you go. No, I like hearing myself talk. I have to watch the whole thing.
All right.
Okay. Wednesday we should be
at the end. You'll get a surprise at the end.
All right. Wednesday we'll be back at our normal time, which would be 12 o'clock my time. and I should
You don't
be
seem to be in any
in.
hurry.
I should be in my man wall doing a regular live stream with the cowboy hat, with um, a couple of flags behind me, hopefully a couple of swords. Um, Chris came up with a good idea of putting a Lannister and a Stark flag behind me, and then in front of the Lannister flag, hang Jamie's
Do not
original
eat my
sword
watch.
from the show, Oathkeeper and Widow's Well, and then in front of the Stark flag, hang Rob's sword, Long Claw, and Ice. So I got to figure out how I'm gonna do that without messing up the banister or the banners. But hopefully Wednesday everything goes smoothly. I got my fingers crossed on the internet. The whole family is just waiting with bated breath,
Bated
foaming at the
breath. Yep.
mouth for internet. But okay, I appreciate everybody joining us today, even though we started 30 minutes early. And I appreciate comments. I appreciate Richard.
Appreciate your flexibility of schedule.
Yeah, there you go. And I do apologize for the distance and how long it's taken to try to get live streams going again. But we should be hitting the ground running from this point on. And I thank everybody. Wednesday will be Aria one. Aria chapters are some of the best in the books, so it should be a good Wednesday, nice hump day. And thank y'all, everybody, and have a good day. Bye, Richard.
You too. Bye.